Welcome to Under the Tree, the podcast from Forester Woods, where we have meaningful conversation that support adults, empower families, and build community. I'm your host, Robert Valasek. Today I'm joined by Kathy from Hospice of Lansing and Stoneleigh residents. Hospice is a word that often brings fear or uncertainty, but it also one of most compassion services available to individuals and families. Today we're going to talk about what hospice really is, who it's for, and why so many misconceptions exist. Kathy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course.
So excited to come and just have a conversation about hospice.
Absolutely. This is a subject that a lot of people are unfamiliar with, so I think you'll have a lot of great information for us today.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Looking forward to it.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role with Stoneleigh residents in the Hospice of Lansing, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the director of marketing and development. So what that means is I go out and see referral sources. I do presentations, talks, things like that to educate about hospice and our agency. So then I also do the fundraising side too. So because we are a nonprofit hospice, the fundraising is important so that we can continue to do what we do. As the only standalone independent nonprofit hospice in the area, meaning we're not connected to a health system or anything like that, we are able to take everything that we receive from insurance reimbursements and donations and put it back out into our patients and our teams. Make sure that they have everything they need that's going to have them best quality of life. So Hospice of Lansing has been around for 47 years now.
Wow.
We have been in the home wherever home is, Eaton, Ingham, Clinton County, part of Ionia County, where our team goes out and we support in the home. That's like intermittent visits throughout the week from our team. And then Stoneleigh Residence is our licensed hospice home. So being licensed by the state of Michigan, we have clinical care 24/7. So we have nurses and aides there all the time. And it is just a beautiful place that someone can come at end of life if they're not able or do not want to remain at home anymore.
Wonderful. It is a beautiful space. I had an opportunity, you showed me around, and you got a great expansion going on too, which is wonderful.
We do. Oh, it's so exciting. We actually just had more building materials delivered today. So we are at the stage of our expansion to add 4 more rooms. So we'll have 12
Wonderful.
total. We'll be able to add more administrative space for our growing team and just be able to really offer Stoneleigh to more people in the community.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, we have been turning away about 75 to 100 families a year
Oh my
due to lack of
goodness.
space. Yeah,
Wow.
we've been full. There is a high need in the area for inpatient hospice homes.
Wow.
And so we know we're only adding 4 rooms, but that is what we can do right now for the community. And then in the future, they can look at adding more on to do that after I'm retired and living my life. But it has been a beautiful journey. We've had so much support. We're actually now at 84% of our fundraising goal, which is so exciting to say.
Yeah.
We're kind of in that final push for this specific expansion. And then we carry on to the outside and the sidewalks and walking paths and things like that. But that's for a few years down the road.
The work never stops, does it?
Yes, we are excited for the expansion of Stoneleigh so we can help more people and make sure that they have a safe place to be at end of life. And we're looking at that expansion to be open and ready for the public around May of next year.
Wonderful. I look forward to seeing it when it's complete.
Thank you.
Could you explain the difference between hospice and palliative care?
Yes, people say hospice and palliative care like they're the same thing all the time. You know, we get a lot of calls, do you have palliative care? But what they really mean is hospice and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So hospice is truly when a person has a life-limiting illness and they are not going to be seeking treatment anymore. If they have that, they would qualify for hospice. So the qualifications come from Medicare. So we do have to follow a process to evaluate people and make sure that they qualify for hospice. But when hospice does come into play, a whole team of end-of-life specialists become involved. So anywhere from our hospice physician, nurse practitioner, you have a nurse case manager assigned solely to you. We have hospice aides, social work, chaplain, bereavement, volunteers. We do music and massage therapy and pet therapy. We kind of like to surround the whole person, not just their, focus on their disease. We focus on their whole being. And our visits are done intermittently throughout the week. So depending on what services you'd like to have, the only one required is to see a nurse
Okay.
at least once every 2 weeks. And so beyond that, we can provide as much or as little support as you'd like. So they're coming intermittently throughout the week, and then we have our on-call nurse at night. So oddly enough, things happen overnight.
Oh, they do.
All
Yes,
the
they
time
do.
or on the
Yes, they
weekends.
do.
So that nurse is only a phone call away. Whenever
Okay.
something happens, you have a question, if you're just feeling nervous or unsure, you can call and talk with them.
Oh, very nice.
And they can make a visit if needed, whatever's needed. That support is truly there 24/7. But not to confuse hospice being in your home 24/7. We do just come in intermittently, and we can provide resources if someone were to need support in the home 24/7
Okay.
to help out. But that is kind of the biggest difference between hospice and palliative care, is that hospice comes in multiple times a week with a full team of people to support. Palliative care is truly when someone may have a life-limiting illness, but they're still seeking treatment,
Okay.
or they have chronic pain and they need help with medication management, and maybe helping figure out their insurance, or housing or something like that. It's a way to help people remain at home that either aren't quite ready for hospice, or they may not quite qualify yet for
Okay.
hospice. Some with chronic diseases, and chronic pain, that can last a very long time
Yes, it
until you
can.
become appropriate for hospice. So usually the palliative care programs in the area, which I want to make sure people are aware, we do not have palliative care at Hospice of Lansing, but we do have some amazing programs in the area. It's usually a nurse practitioner and a social worker visiting 1 to 2 times a month, maybe once every 3 weeks,
Okay.
and just helping manage, like I mentioned, the pain
Sure.
and symptoms and the medication management, and helping with any other needs that they might come up. So it's a little less support than hospice, but it's something in place that can help.
Okay. Thank you so much for explaining the difference. What are some of the biggest myths about hospice?
The biggest myths that we still see to this day is people think hospice is just for the last few days of life.
Yeah.
It really is. We've started to turn a little bit of a corner with getting that education out there and the support out there, with different generations coming up to that age.
That's important.
But it truly is not just for the last few days of life. Hospice can support for as long as needed, and it can come into play, honestly, really, as when you get that diagnosis. If you're not going to seek treatment, hospice could come into play, and you could be driving, vacationing, doing whatever you're doing in your life and be feeling all right. If you qualify for hospice, we can come in and offer support from that day forward for as
Okay.
long as it's needed. Some of the other myths that we hear a lot is that morphine is going to cause their loved one to pass away.
Oh.
That fear of the medication.
Yeah.
And we understand that as well. But it's not true. So morphine really is a beneficial medication that can help multiple things. It can help with pain, shortness of breath, and anxiety. So
Okay.
morphine is used a lot in hospice when the time comes to need it, because it's one medication that can help multiple things. And we do see, sometimes people do get a little groggy, for maybe a day or so after they start morphine. That's normal.
Okay.
And they typically then come back and, once their body adjusts and back to their normal baseline, and have really great positive results from, being on morphine. There is also the case that, because we are a very transparent agency, that someone may be having a lot of pain and symptoms for a long time, and that maybe is what is keeping them alive, is that pain. And so sometimes when morphine is given, their body's able to relax, and the natural process can happen where they may then pass away. So
Okay.
it's not the morphine making them pass away, it's that it's helping with that pain and symptoms for the body to do its natural thing.
Okay.
Because as someone is passing away, the closer they get, the body knows what to do when it's at that point. It knows that it doesn't need food and water anymore, that it's doing its shutdown process, and it is all very natural. With our hospice, we are very aware of the medications that are given. We address them multiple times with the case managers and make sure they're on the right doses and things.
Okay.
We also start kind of at low doses and we work up.
Okay.
So that myth that people are just going to be snowed in hospice,
Sure.
and sleeping all the time, not the case. We have a few people at Stoneleigh residents that are on morphine, and they are up and walking around, coming out for breakfast, and
Okay.
and very, doing well for being on hospice.
Sure.
But it's just definitely, excuse me, one of those myths that we like to break. The final one that I thought of really is that there's only one hospice company in the whole US. We get that a lot.
There's only one company,
Yeah.
really?
Well, we're in healthcare, so we know there's 18 hospices that touch this area alone in Lansing, and surrounding. But we do. People think that there maybe is just one hospice, and quite honestly, that
gosh.
would be great, because then it would be one central spot and everybody do the same thing.
Sure.
Because every hospice is a little different. That's why we recommend people interview 2 or 3 hospices when it's time,
Oh,
because you want to go with who you vibe with best, who's going to meet your needs best.
sure. Yeah.
Is the person very much into music therapy and massage therapy? Then if so, you want to choose a hospice that has that, because that's only going to provide more benefit
Absolutely.
and quality of life. But yes, there are multiple different hospices, for-profit, nonprofit, and so there's big differences between all of them.
Great. Thank you for talking about those myths. There's a lot of myths out there.
There are.
My goodness.
Yes, that's just a few.
When should families begin considering hospice?
It truly is never too early to consider hospice. I did an info share just the other day, and the gentleman is hospice appropriate, very much so. But his wife wanted just to come in because she's talking to a few different hospices. She was
Okay.
interviewing
Oh,
us.
she's following your tips.
It was great. Yeah, I didn't even talk to her ahead of time. But it was really wonderful and refreshing to sit down and talk with her and field her questions and tell her about us. And she, he may have been ready to admit that day if we wanted to,
Okay.
but they weren't quite ready for it. And that's okay. But she wanted to come and get the information to know exactly what to expect and what services would be provided and what it would look like. And so we do truly believe calling hospice ahead of time before it becomes a decision in a crisis moment
Yeah.
is huge.
Yeah.
Because the more informed that you are, especially of aging parents, or if you are taking care of someone that is older, things happen fast.
They do.
A fall,
Yes.
a stroke, something of that nature can place them in the hospital, and then it's go time to figure out what to do.
Yes.
So we always, at expos and things like that, we're like, here, just take it and put it in your
Yeah.
file.
Yeah.
Take our information so you have it in the future if it's ever needed. Put it in that file with your power of attorney, so that when the time comes, the decision is a little easier, on them or on their family. So definitely consider talking about it, ahead of time. But if your loved one is maybe taking a lot of trips to the emergency room, nothing is really being done or changed, to improve their quality of life, there really isn't anything to do. Or if they are starting to fall a lot, if they're losing weight rapidly, all of those things are indicators that it could be time to look into hospice.
Okay.
We do have a wonderful intake team that can come out and do an evaluation, and we can look into see your medical records,
Oh,
do all
nice.
of that with your permission to see if we feel you qualify for hospice. And if you don't, then we can provide those resources to help you remain in your home and comfortable and cared for. But those pieces we see a lot is if they're going to the ER a lot, and nothing's changing, and if someone voices, I don't want to go to the hospital anymore, I don't
Oh,
want to do this
sure.
anymore,
Yeah.
that is also a really great indicator to reach out and just have the discussion.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're going to qualify and we're going to admit that day, but it's better to have the information and to know what to expect and what to look
Absolutely.
for if it's not quite time.
Great information. What do you think so many families wait too long before seeking hospice?
Well, no one wants to say goodbye
Yeah.
or think about end of life. We know that. I mean, I know some people think I'm weird because I work in hospice. It's my passion. I've tried other avenues in senior care, and it's just hospice is really what I feel led to work with. Um, and it's truly to make sure that everyone's life is celebrated at every moment. So we all celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, and
Oh, very
we
nice.
have big celebrations, all of the time throughout our lives. 4th of July, everything.
Yeah.
When you are at your end of life journey, your whole life should be celebrated. It shouldn't be someone backs away from. But because of the fear of losing someone, or the fear of what hospice is because they're not sure about it, because no one wants to
Yeah.
think
Like
about it until it's
talking about your
time.
myths, right? This
Hmm.
could be, I'm in here, I'm done, kind of not, this is kind of the last stop. But as
Yep,
you mentioned, it may not be.
exactly. Yep, for sure. So it's definitely easier to just have a conversation and learn about it, um, so that, like I mentioned before, it's not done in a crisis, because that
Right.
is truly, I would say, 75% of who we care for. It's because there's some sort of a crisis, big or small, that happened that launched them into, that the phrase of hospice was mentioned,
Sure.
our end
Yeah.
of life care. So a lot of times it's about, being nervous or having that fear. Um, but the support that can be provided just from day one of that info share helps usually relieve a lot of that
Say it
fear and
must be like
nervousness.
yeah, relief. Okay,
Yeah,
with this information, yeah,
yeah,
we can make a sound decision.
yeah, exactly.
Here's a term that comes up quite a bit, I'm sure, in hospice care is what does quality of life mean
Yep.
in hospice?
Quality of life is really shifting the perspective of quality is from quantity of time to quality of time. Um, it's taking, that whole person into account and helping manage those pain and symptoms and that emotional support so that the time left is meaningful and impactful. So quality of life is huge to us in hospice. That really is once the decision is made, and some people do have trouble with that. They're like, "Well, we want them to live longer. We want them to live longer," and we understand that,
Yeah.
absolutely do. And there are reports out there and studies people have done that have said if you admit to hospice services earlier, you could live up to 29 days longer.
Oh wow.
So there are benefits, to coming onto hospice and getting, your pain and symptoms managed, where someone is feeling better. They can extend their life, if they come on earlier. But that quality of life truly is just making sure that the quality of the time being spent is meaningful versus the quantity of time that may be.
Sure. What is one thing you wish everybody understood about hospice?
We've touched on it a little bit, but I'll say it again to everyone in the back. Hospice can start so much earlier than the last few days of life. Um, I run into so many people in the community and at different events, and I get so many stories, whether it's our hospice or another hospice. 90% are positive. There's a few still out there that
Oh, sure.
weren't the greatest experience, and I'm sorry for that. Um, you only get one chance in hospice, so you got to get it right the first
That's
time. You
very
really
true.
do.
Yeah.
But it really is truly bringing someone into hospice earlier instead of waiting because you don't know what it is or you're fearful about it. It it's taking away the support that could be provided for so much longer and bringing that quality of
Oh,
life
sure. Yeah.
in much sooner.
Very good. Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
Kathy, thank you for helping us better understand hospice and clearing up many of the misconceptions that surround it. We hope today's conversation encourages families to learn more about hospice before they find themselves facing a difficult situation. See you next time under the tree.